What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Pit Lane Chats. My name is Kaz. You can call me Sticks or Kaz or Kaza. Any of those will work. And this is episode 2 of season 2. And I have my very first guest of the season in a Discord call with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you watched my YouTube video where I had my non-Formula 1 friend guess what Formula 1 drivers' names and nationalities were, you would know that this is Vey that I have in a call with me.
Hello. Yes. I know nothing still.
Yeah, it's so today what we're doing, instead of covering testing, because I'm gonna be honest, nothing, you don't really learn anything from testing, so it kind of seems
Mhm.
useless to cover it. Or we don't learn anything from testing, I should say. The teams learn a lot, but we don't learn anything. But yeah, so I created a PowerPoint presentation for Vey
So
uh,
professional.
in order to introduce them to Formula One. And I spent way too long on this PowerPoint for you guys to not see it, so this is also our very first video episode. So, I'm gonna try to get the video on Spotify, but if I can't, I highly recommend you guys going to YouTube to watch it. Because this is gonna be good.
Yes. I'm
Alright.
excited.
I am also very excited. Also, if you hear any weird noises, I think our neighbors have a gardener over, so if you hear anything, it's probably what it is. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Alright, an introduction to F1 by Kaz. Oh, that did not work. Brother! Hang on, give me a second.
My cats are looking at me like I'm a crazy person.
They might be right, you never know.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, technical difficulties aside,
Yeah.
I figured it out now, so all is well. An
Get this
introduction to
thing.
F1 by Kaz. It's not, honestly, it's not a stick in the mud production if it's not slightly scuffed, so you know it's fine.
Yeah, it's so true. So true, Bestie.
Alright, so what is Formula One? Formula One, or F1, is the highest class of international single-seater open-wheel Formula car racing, and I'm about to butcher this name, by the way. I don't speak French. It is governed by... I googled how to say it and I still couldn't get it. It is governed by the... the... I'm just going to say it the most American way possible. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, or the FIA. It has been running since 1950, and the races are called Grand Prix. The races take place on a mix of purpose-built circuits, so that'll be like Spa, Hungaroring, and Barcelona, where we're going to be going this year. And then it's also street circuits that are built on public roads like Monaco and Las Vegas. Races are a weekend-long event, typically spanning 3 days, with the feature race being on Sundays. This year, though, the Bahrain, Saudi Arabian, and Las Vegas Grand Prix are all taking place on Saturdays instead of Sundays. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, it's because of Ramadan is happening on that Sunday, and they have a
Um,
rule of like where you have to have 7 days between each race weekend. So they just
yeah,
moved Bahrain back a day as well. So that's why Bahrain and Saudi Arabia are both taking place on Saturday, because that's not
makes
normal.
makes sense.
Yeah. I had to Google it though, because I was just like, I know that it's because of Ramadan, but I could not figure out why Bahrain was also on a Saturday, but it's
Mm.
because you have to have 7 days between race days.
Look at them being all inclusive and stuff.
I know, except for, well, I
Uh,
shouldn't say that. Never mind.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
Say whatever it is you're thinking.
So who takes part? There are currently 10 teams in Formula One. I am still very bitter about F1 rejecting Andretti's bid. And each team has 2 drivers. If F1 had accepted their bid, they'd be on the grid in 2025 and we'd have 11 teams. But unfortunately,
Rude.
they said no.
And
Uh,
I know 4.
yeah. But this means we have a total of 20 drivers on the grid that are from all around the world. Each team has a main boss that is known as the team principal, or the TP is what I'm going to be referring to them as, just because it was so much easier to type out TP than team principal. And then each team is also made up of a set of engineers that work to develop the car and its upgrades throughout the season. They also have like a million other personnel that include like the pit crew, strategists, etc. And also, there's two sides of the garage for each. Oh my gosh, there's a little fly flying in my face.
Yeah.
Um, there's two sides of the garage on a race weekend, and each side corresponds to one of the drivers, and each driver has like their own set of mechanics. So,
Uh,
yeah. And then each driver also has a race engineer that's assigned to them, and the race engineers are the ones that talk to the driver during the race and during all the sessions that they're driving, because they're the ones that tell them what's going on the track, like all around them, who's ahead, who's behind, how far ahead, how far behind, all that good stuff. And basically telling them, like, oh, there's a red flag or yellow flag and all that. They're very important. Alright, so the 2024 season and all of that tomfoolery. So we're racing a lot of places. It is the longest Formula One season on the like ever. We have 24 races. I'm not going to say where we're all racing because that's a lot of names. In short, we're racing everywhere.
I want to go to Singapore.
Singapore would be cool. That one's a street race.
Cool. So, one of these years, Singapore.
That'd be fun. I agree.
For that, and because I just really like Singapore.
No, same. I agree. I would love to go to Singapore.
I would say that. True.
What does a typical race weekend look like? Typical race weekend has 3 different types of events. So that would be free practice 1, 2, and 3, qualifying, and the feature race. Free practice 1 and 2, or FP1 and FP2, take place on the first day of the weekend, which is typically a Friday, but in some cases is Thursday, such as with Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Vegas. Free practice 3, or FP3, takes place on the second day of the weekend as the first session of the day and is followed by qualifying, or quali. I don't know how you're technically supposed to spell it. I always spell it with the I, so that's why I said quali like that. And we'll talk about quali on the next slide. The final event of the weekend is on the final day, so typically Sunday. That is the feature race, or the race, or the Grand Prix, and it's normally just called race day. And we'll discuss the race format in a couple seconds. So what is qualifying? That's a good question, because I didn't know for the longest time. I am admittedly a fan that got into Formula One because of Drive to Survive, so I didn't understand how all of the sessions worked. However, Google was my best friend, and I figured it out. But qualifying is a session where drivers all try to put in their fastest laps that will set their starting position on race day. So qualifying has like 3 shorter sessions within qualifying. So it's Q1, Q2, and Q3. And Q1, all 20 of the drivers are out at the same time and trying to set a lap within 18 minutes. And at the end of that 18 minutes, the slowest 5 drivers are eliminated, and they will start the race at the back of the grid from places 20 to 16, depending on how fast or how slow they went. The rest of the 15 drivers move on to Q2, which lasts 15 minutes. It's kind of rinse and repeat. Those 15 drivers try to set a fast time, and the 5 slowest are again eliminated, and they will be starting from 15th to 11th on the starting grid. And the remaining 10 drivers are in Q3. It lasts only 12 minutes, and this is when a driver can earn pole position, which basically means they're starting at the front of the starting grid on race day. And then it's just 1 through 10 based on how fast or how slow you went. There are potential penalties that can be given because of qualifying. So, like, if you're impeding a driver that is on a flying lap, which basically means they're trying to set a lap time, if you impede them, then you have a potential for getting a grid penalty, which means that you will be dropped a few grid places. And then there's also other penalties that could be like if you change an engine component between qualifying and the race, or just at a time in which you're not allowed to work on the car, you can also get a grid penalty, which could either drop you down further down the grid or make you start from the pit lane instead.
That's unfortunate.
It really is. It sucks, honestly. So on race day, the drivers line up on the grid 1 through 20, unless penalties, like I said, have been given that makes the driver start from the pit lane. And this is in the order that was determined during qualifying. They do 1 formation lap, so everyone's on the grid. They have a bunch of mechanics that are on there with tire blankets because you want your tires to be warm when you start, because starting on cold tires means you have no grip, which then means
Mm-hmm.
that it's really dangerous. Um, and so they have all the mechanics and everyone that are on the grid with tire blankets and cooling off the car before they start and all that good stuff and double checking everything. And then they do a formation lap and they end in like the grid slots that they are supposed to be in, and that allows time for the mechanics and everyone that's on the grid to get off of the grid before the race actually starts. And then the race starts when the 5 red lights, they go out, because they show up one at a time and then they go out, and when the lights go out, that means the race starts. The kind of key phrase is lights out and away we go. That's what one of the announcers always says.
Mm.
And then the rest of the race is exactly what you would think. It's overtakes for X amount of laps, depending on what track you're on, pit stops, and a Ferrari blunder of some kind, because they seem to do that every time. Or Alpine, honestly. Either Ferrari or Alpine. Alpine just flies under the radar because they're not Ferrari. But they're also a disaster. But yeah, each track has a different number of laps depending on the track length. So like if it's a really long track, you're going to have less laps. I think 50-ish is about like the low number of laps, and then you have up to like 70 something on some of the shorter tracks.
Mm.
Yeah. And then what does a non-typical race weekend look like? You have about the same types of events. So you have FP1, 2, and 3 qualifying for the feature race and the feature race, but then you also have qualifying for the sprint race and the sprint race. So on a sprint weekend, which is obviously weekends with the sprint race, FP1 takes place as normal on the first day, but it's followed by qualifying for the sprint race, which is a change from last year's format. I think it's stupid, but that's just me. Last year what it was you would have qualifying for the feature race on that Friday, or that first day, after one free practice session, and then you would have qualifying for the sprint race on the second day that is followed by the sprint race itself. But it's changed to where you have qualifying for the sprint race on the first day, and then you have your sprint race on the second day as the first session, and then it's followed by qualifying for the feature race, and the feature race still occurs on the final day. So like if it's on Saturday, let's say like sprint race starts at like 10 a.m., then qualifying would be at like 4 or something. So sprint races, I hate them. They're a 100-kilometer race, so it's about a third of the full race distance, and there's no mandatory pit stops, but they're often really boring because nobody wants to wreck their car for a win that doesn't actually count towards their total race win count. And it's also because they still have the feature race the following day, so if you wreck your car in the sprint race, odds are you're not going to get it back in time for the feature race. And then also, part of the reason why I said the format change was stupid is because if you wreck your car in the sprint race and you have qualifying for the feature race later on, like you are not going to want to get your nose dirty at all, like in the sprint race, because the whole point of the sprint races is that they're supposed to be exciting, like action-packed racing. Because F1 says that that's what the fans want, which we do, but we don't want the sprint race because, again, no one's going to risk ruining their car for a win that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
But the sprint races do award points, so if you finish in the top 8, you get points for the sprint race. But it's kind of useless just because you have your top 4 teams, which would be Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren. And if all four teams, like if their drivers are good and don't have any incidents, there's your top 8. So really only the top 4 teams earn points in sprint races typically. So I, again, think it's stupid. But what do I know? I'm just a person with a microphone and a camera. Anyways, moving on. So what are pit stops? So you have your pit lane on the track. It's typically along the start-finish straight. So you have your pit lane entrance is going to be before you get to that final straight. And then your pit lane exit is going to be at the end, typically right before turn 1 of the track. Sometimes it's after turn 1, before turn 2. And there is a speed limit within the pit lane. I don't know what the speed limit is, but you can't go faster than it, otherwise you get a penalty. But pit stops are planned and sometimes unplanned stops in the race where a driver goes into the pit lane to get their tires changed. Sometimes they'll get their front wing changed and or adjusted as well, and sometimes they only get their front wing changed and or adjusted and they don't change their tires. There's up to 22 pit crew members that meet the driver in the box. So that's 3 guys for each tire, so that's 12 total. You have 1 guy to undo the tire from the car, you have 1 guy to take the old tire off, and then another guy to put the new tire on. So it's a total of 12, 3 for each wheel. You have a front jackman and a rear jackman because the car is lifted up into the air to let the tires get taken off and then back on. And then you also have 2 people with extra jacks for both the front and the rear of the car. You have 2 people to stabilize the car in the middle. And then they also are there to clean the radiators, visors, and mirrors for the driver. And then you have 2 crew members that will adjust and or change the front wing. Because the front wing can come off fairly easily. So like if you run into someone or someone runs into you and they take off a part of your front wing, you can get it changed once you get into the pit lane. So, which makes it nice because that doesn't mean that it's not like a race ending incident, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And then you also have 1 crew member that decides whether or not it's safe to release the driver from the box. So they're keeping an eye out on traffic in the pit lane to make sure that they're not going to be released right into the path of another driver and all that good stuff because you don't want to crash in the pit lane. And then you also have another crew member that also keeps an eye on things, and they can stop the light from going green and letting the driver go if they see that it's not safe for them to do so. So a lot of people. And typically pit stops only last like 3 seconds max. Some pit stops last longer. Obviously, if you're changing your front wing, it's going to last a bit longer. If you have a time penalty, it's going to last longer because you're in the pit lane in your box for stationary for like 5 or 10 seconds, depending on how long your penalty is. But yeah, normally it's less than 3 seconds. Some teams are better than others. I think McLaren has the world record for the fastest pit stop. I think it's like 1.98 seconds or something like that. It's ridiculously fast.
Yeah, that's too much. They're doing too much there.
And then you have different pit stop strategies. Honestly, you really only have to worry about the undercut. But you have undercut and overcut. Undercut is when a driver is pitted earlier than their rivals in the hopes that their fresher tires will gain them a position due to the fresh rubber, and their rivals need to eventually pit for fresh tires as well. Overcut is the opposite, so it banks on being able to extend your tire life and stay out longer than your rivals and stay ahead until the end of the race or until the next pit stop. So mostly you'll hear about undercut more so than you will overcut, but they're both viable strategies. Oh, I didn't realize my face cam was going to cover so much of this. This is fun. So with tire compounds, Pirelli is the tire supplier. They have 5 different tire compounds to choose from each race weekend. They pick 3, and the tire compounds range from C1 to C5. C1 is the hardest, C5 is the softest. And then each weekend they also have, in addition to the 3 tire compounds that have been selected by Pirelli, they also have access to intermediate and full wet tires if the weather necessitates them. So if it starts raining or the track gets wet, then they'll put on those intermediate or full wet tires depending on how wet it is. So the compounds, there's 3 different types that you'll see during a race weekend. You'll see soft, medium, and hard. Soft tires are the ones with the red ring around them, and that means that they're the quickest, but they last the least amount of time. So typically you'll normally see like medium and soft tires used, I feel like the most, just because the hard tires are normally very slow because they have the longest durability, but they have the slowest speeds of the 3. And then medium tires are kind of a good balance between both speed and durability. And then You also have the tire blankets to keep the tires warm because, again, you want to have grip. And the grip basically comes from the tires melting onto the track.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because track surface is normally very hot, and F1 cars also get very hot. And then during a race, each driver is required to use at least two different types of tires. So
Mhm.
be it that like soft and medium, or soft and hard, or medium and hard, whatever you like, however you want to use that. You have to use at least two, unless it's a wet weather race, which means that you use either full wet or intermediate tires. So you don't need to use two different tire compounds if it's a wet race, because they're not going to make you switch on to soft tires if it's raining,
Yeah,
because that's
that's
unsafe.
that's a little messed up.
Just a bit. So, flags and rules. I had a fun time writing this slide. So you have different colored flags, and each flag means something different. So if there's a green flag being waved, it means the track is clear and you can fully send it. If there's a blue flag being shown to you, you are not sending it hard enough, and there's someone faster behind you, so you have to let them through. And if you ignore the blue flag 3 times, then you get a penalty. And then this also lets a driver that is leaving the pits know that there's traffic coming up behind them on the straight, or on the corner, or whatever it is the pit exit is. If a white flag's being waved, that means it's the final lap before the session is done, and so it's your last chance to send it. If it's a yellow flag with red stripes, it means that track conditions ahead have changed, so send it with caution. So that could be like oil or water or something that's on track that has like changed the grip levels or something like that. If a yellow flag is being waved, that means there's danger ahead. So if it's a single waved yellow, it just means that you need to reduce your speed, you can't overtake, and you need to prepare to change direction because someone or something is on or near the track. If there's double waved yellow flags, that's two yellow flags being waved at the same time, it means you need to slow way down, don't overtake, hazard is fully on track, and or there are marshals that are working nearby on the track. And the same thing applies, prepare to change direction, or just fully stop as well. If a red flag is being waved, that means you need to stop sending it because the session has been stopped. So that's normally because of something that's happened on track. So if that's someone that crashed, or something that, like, I don't know, there's like some sort of obstruction on the track, and it's just not safe at all for drivers to go on, like, to drive around. And this could also be if it starts raining way too hard, then a session can also get stopped then. Typically, if a session is red flagged, it will get resumed later on. Sometimes it won't. So, like, in Spa, I believe it was 2021, it was raining so hard that they couldn't resume the race. And so basically what happened, they completed 2 laps, and then that was it. So, but that doesn't normally happen, just sometimes. And then if you see a black flag, that means that you're disqualified. And they'll show you, like, so, like, black flags, like, they also have a digital panel that shows you the driver number. If it is, like, a blue flag or a black flag or something, like, they'll show, like, the flag, and then they'll show the driver number on the board. So that lets you know that that is, like, for you, it's not for someone else. And then if you see a black flag with an orange circle in the middle of it, your car is begging you to chill out, and so you have to go to the pits to get it fixed. A lot of the time that I've seen it, it's been someone was too aggressive at the beginning of the race, and so they have, like, a front wing end plate that's hanging off of the car, and it could like potentially fall off and cause damage to other drivers' cars or to the drivers themselves, and it just makes it unsafe. And then if you see a black and white flag, you sent it in an uncool way, and so it serves as a warning. So if you do whatever it is that you're getting a warning for again, you get a penalty for it. And then a checkered flag means stop sending it, the race is over, or session is over, depending on what it is. Because checker flag is always waved at the end of a session. Yeah. Although normally you only will see you normally won't see the yellow with red stripes. Like you might, but I've personally not seen it actually waved. And I've also not seen the black flag in my time watching, and I've only seen the black with the orange circle flag like a few times. Like most of the ones that you really need to know is like the green, blue, yellow, and red flags. Those are most of them. And then rules and safety. F1 is not a lawless land, so rules in the sport include but aren't limited to: don't force other drivers off the track, don't hit other drivers, don't speed in the pit lane, don't ignore yellow flags, don't ignore blue flags, don't exceed track limits. And track limits, it changes based on what track you're on, so it could be the white line that you see that's on the track, and that just means that you have to make sure that at least one of your 4 tires is on or inside of that white line, or whatever the race marshal has decided is going to be track limits.
Okay.
It changes, and it's really annoying because sometimes it's the white line, sometimes it's a wall. Although granted, if you're outside of track limits and the track limit is a wall, you have other issues.
Yeah. Don't hit walls.
But yeah, so all of those can result in a time penalty that's served at the next pit stop or added on to the final time at the end of the race. So basically, if you get like a 5-second time penalty before you stop again and you go back into the pits, then you have to sit stationary with no one touching your car for 5 seconds. And then as soon as the 5 seconds is up, they can start working on your car again and then get you going. But if you don't pit again by the end of the race, then that 5 seconds is just going to be added on to your final time. So if there's drivers behind you that are within 5 seconds of you, they're now ahead of you at the end of the race.
Oof.
Even if you cross the line before them.
Oof.
Yeah. So other rules include regulatory rules that often result in grid penalties, such as replacing engine components or working on the car outside of allotted hours. I mentioned that earlier. And then this also includes checks that are done on the car after a race to make sure that the cars are within regulation, and that can result in post-race penalties and disqualifications. So like Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton in Texas last year, their skid block was outside. It had more wear than what was allowed. I don't remember what exactly the numbers were, but it was worn down too much, basically, for what the regulations allowed for, which meant they were disqualified. And then F1 is actually a fairly safe sport. Also, for those of you that are watching the video, the picture that my face cam is covering is Grosjean's crash. Just a heads up, that way you aren't wondering. And you actually will rarely see a driver that gets seriously injured in a crash. Because you have things like the safety car that's brought out typically during yellow waved flags. Like the double waved yellow flags, I mean. And that basically is used to condense the drivers all together to make sure they're not going to be going all willy-nilly around the track and make sure they're not going too fast. And it also, like, since it's condensing them together, it allows for a lot of time for marshals to clear whatever happened. Cars are not allowed to overtake the safety car unless they are lapped cars and they have been cleared to unlap themselves by the stewards and by race control. So, yeah. And then also, when the safety car goes in, it'll go in at the end of a lap, and it'll go into the pit lane, and then it's up to the lead car to decide when the race restarts. So they have between when the safety car goes into the pit lane, and I don't remember what the second point is where it actually starts for sure, but they have a brief amount of time where they can decide to either keep everyone going slow for a little bit longer or just start right away. So it depends. There's also safety measures in the car that protect the drivers, such as their fireproof race suits, their I just call them fireproofs. I don't actually know what they're called. But it's like their undershirts and stuff. That's all fireproof. They have fireproof gloves. They have their helmets. They have neck braces, headrests. They have the halo on the car that is the funky looking thing that kind of obstructs their view. That helps protect their heads along with the roll cages. And then they also have the driver pod, which is where the driver sits. And a lot of the time when crashes look really bad, it's because the car is like crumbling around a driver, and that's actually what they're designed to do. So the cars are designed to absorb all of the shock and like snap off parts and stuff to keep the driver safe in their little pod. It's actually very neat. So like the second picture on there of Zhou Guan Yu, he's in Silverstone 2022, like he got flipped upside down and slid, but the halo protected him because his roll cage failed. But had the halo not been there, he probably would have died. But he's totally fine. Like, he's still racing.
Yeah.
So, pretty insane. And then Grosjean was able to walk out of fire because the halo protected his head when he went into a barrier.
Oof.
So, and the fireproof suit did exactly what it was supposed to do. But yeah, pretty insane stuff. And then now, on to the fun stuff. This is the stuff that took the longest. The teams and their drivers, a brief introduction. We'll see if it's actually brief, but, you know. So, the first one is Oracle Red Bull Racing. They are the current world champions from Austria. They have drivers Sergio Perez and the 3-time champion Max Verstappen. Currently, their team principal is Christian Horner. I'm actually going to turn off my... Oh, no, I don't want to turn my face cam off. I'm going to move it again up to the top because I want everyone to be able to see all the pictures I chose. Currently, their team principal is Christian Horner. So, Sergio Checo Perez is a 34-year-old Mexican driver. He's been with Red Bull since 2021, but he's been in Formula One since 2011. And last season, he secured P2 in the driver standings, and one of his nicknames is the Mexican Minister of Defense, which is fun. He races under the number 11. And Max Verstappen is a 26-year-old Dutch driver. He's been with Red Bull since 2016, but before that, he was with their sister team, which was called Toro Rosso at the time. He's been in Formula One since 2015, and he has earned the World Drivers' Championship for the past 3 years, and he had the most dominant Formula One season last year in 2023, where he won 19 out of 22 races. And he races under the number 1 because he has the option to, due to the fact that he is the champion, but he used to race under 33. And Red Bull won all but one race last season. So it was either Max or Checo all season. Except for in Singapore.
Singapore!
Yeah. But yeah. Oh no.
Oh.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was gonna do what it did before and make me accidentally open another tab. Scuderia Ferrari, they are the only team that has been a part of Formula One since the very beginning in 1950. They are an Italian team, and their team principal is currently Fred Vassar, and their drivers are Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz Jr., although Hamilton signed and he will be with them, and he will be driving for them in 2025. Charles Leclerc is a 26-year-old Monegasque. Wow, I totally did not say that right. Driver, and he's been with Ferrari since 2019, but he's been in Formula One since 2018. He's currently regarded as one of Verstappen's biggest rivals, and he has won a total of 5 races in his career. He races under the number 16. And then he was the one driver whose name you actually got.
Oh my god, him!
Video. Yeah. I was gonna say, you totally, shot in the dark, said Charles, and that was it.
Yep, he's in my lovely Ferrari.
Yep, the lovely Ferrari orange.
It's fine.
But yeah.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. But yeah, and then when you have Carlos Sainz Jr., who is a 29-year-old Spanish driver, and he's been with Ferrari since 2021, and he's been in Formula One since 2015. He actually, in his rookie season, was teammates with Max at Toro Rosso. So he used to be a Red Bull driver, and then he went to Renault, and then he went to McLaren, and now he's at Ferrari. And it's unclear as to what he will be doing in 2025, as he is the one that is out of a seat because of Hamilton.
Yeah.
He is Spain's second ever race winner. They've only ever had 2 Formula One drivers that won a race. And he has won 2 races in his career. And he was the only non-Red Bull winner in 2023. And it's unrelated, but his nickname is Chili. I thought that was a fun fact. Oh my gosh, the little flies are killing me. And he races under the number 55. Moving on, we have the Mercedes-AMG Petronas F1 team. One of the longest names I've ever seen. It's so stupid. They're a German team that have won a total of 9 Drivers' Championships and 8 Constructors' Championships. Their team principal is Toto Wolff, and their drivers are Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. Lewis Hamilton is 39 years old. He's a British driver, and he's been with Mercedes since 2013. He has been in Formula One since 2007, and he is the most successful Formula One driver ever. He has 7 total World Drivers' Championships and over 100 race wins, and he's tied with Michael Schumacher for the most number of championships. It's pretty insane. He races under
Why
the...
is he
Sorry, go ahead.
So then why is he leaving Mercedes? If he's
Because
been
Mercedes haven't been competitive the last few years. And it's also kind of one of those things that, since Ferrari is such a big name in Formula One, like, it's one of those things that all drivers want to drive for Ferrari at some point in their careers. It's kind of the statement. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot of F1 drivers' dreams to drive for Ferrari in Formula One.
The orange.
Yep. But yeah, so he races under the number 44. And then his teammate is George Russell, and he is a 26-year-old British driver, and he's been with Mercedes since 2022. He's been in Formula One since 2019, and he is the only Mercedes race winner in the last 2 years, where he took his first win in Brazil in 2022. Unfortunately, that is the only race win Mercedes has seen since 2021. So, yep. And he races under the number 63. And he is also possibly one of the most British British people you will ever meet. Like, he is so British. It's ridiculous.
I wish I was British.
Fair. And then we have the McLaren Formula One team, the actual orange team. They're a British team. They are the second oldest and the second most successful, both after Ferrari in Formula One. So Ferrari is the most successful and the oldest, but McLaren is right behind them. Their team principal is Andrea Stella, and their drivers are Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris is a 24-year-old British driver, and he's been with McLaren since 2019, which was also the start of his Formula One career. He has yet to take a win, but he's gotten multiple podiums with McLaren, which kind of gives them a lot of hope for their success in the future. And he's also widely regarded as being championship material, which is partly why McLaren has worked so hard to keep him and retain him for future years and give him a car that can compete. And then he races under the number 4. I almost forgot.
Wayne.
And Oscar Piastri, his teammate, is a 22-year-old Australian driver. I think he's 22. He might be 23 now. I don't know. And he joined McLaren in his rookie season, which was last year, 2023. And this was after a whole debacle with Alpine, where he was a junior driver and a reserve driver, where Alpine announced that he signed a contract when he didn't really. And then Oscar, he came out in, before the 2023 season started. Like, this is, like, halfway through the 2022 season, even.
Mm-hmm.
Alpine lost one of their drivers. Like, he was leaving the team, and then they announced him, and he was like, I understand without my agreement that Alpine have released a statement saying I'm driving for them next season. This is not true, and I will not be racing for them next season. So, one of the best days in F1 Twitter that I've ever had the pleasure of experiencing. He was a strong candidate for Formula 1 in general, but McLaren specifically, due to the fact that he won both Formula 2 and Formula 3 in his rookie seasons. So he won in Formula 3 in 2020 and F2 in 2021, and he was Rookie of the Year in 2020, 2021, and 2023, because he didn't drive in 2022 anywhere, so he didn't have the opportunity to be Rookie of the Year, but everywhere else he was Rookie of the Year. And then he also won the Qatar Sprint Race in 2023, which is the only kind of race win since Ricciardo won in Monza in 2021, I think it was. But yeah. And then he races under the number 81. And he is the definition of a polite cat. That is him.
I cannot relate.
I love
I'm
him.
a rude cat. Very rude cat.
And then moving on, we have BWT Alpine F1 team. They were previously known as Renault, and they are a French team, and they are no stranger to regular points. Their team principal is Bruno Famine. He's French. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And their drivers are Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon. Pierre Gasly is a 28-year-old French driver, and he's been with Alpine since last season. So 2023 was his first season with them, but he's been in Formula 1 since 2017. He is the sole race winner in AlphaTauri, which was... Well, I'll explain later, but it's the sister team for Red Bull. So he's the only one that won a race with AlphaTauri when they were branded as AlphaTauri. So it brought both his and the team's maiden wins in 2020. He races under the number 10. And he also scored one of the podiums that Alpine got last season. So he got third place in Zandvoort in the Netherlands. So that was cool. And then Esteban Ocon is a 27-year-old French driver, and he's been with Alpine since they were Renault back in 2020, and he stayed when they rebranded to Alpine. He's been in F1 since 2016, but I believe in 2019 he actually didn't have a full-time seat. I believe. But he is the sole race winner in Alpine history. So, since they've rebranded to Alpine, he's the only one that's won. He earned his and the team's maiden win in Hungary in 2021, and he races under the number 31.
What's a maiden win?
Sorry?
What's a maiden win?
It just means their first win.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like a maiden voyage, it's like the first voyage. A maiden win is the first win.
Okay.
Yeah. So Aston Martin, Aramco, I believe is how you pronounce that, F1 team, they're commonly called the Silverstone team because of lots of rebrands in the British team's history. Their team principal is Mike Crack, and their drivers are Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso.
Oh, why his name made me laugh so hard.
No, I know. That's fine. Lance Stroll is a 25-year-old Canadian driver, and he's been with Aston Martin since 2019, which was before they rebranded. They used to be Racing Point in 2019, and then they became Aston Martin in 2021, I think? 2021 sounds right. But he's been in Formula 1 since 2017. He started out at Williams, but then obviously switched to Aston Martin in 2019. And he is the second youngest driver to sit on the F1 podium and the youngest to do so in his rookie season. And he races under the number 18. And a lot of people say that he's a pay driver, which is partially true, but also not really. Because, I mean, everyone's there because of money at the end of the day, so you know. Anyways, I have lots of feelings about Lance Stroll. I love him.
I know you do.
And then his teammate, Fernando Alonso, is a 42-year-old Spanish driver, and he has been with Aston Martin since 2023, so last year was his first season with them. Prior to that, he was with Alpine, and prior to that, a team history that I do not remember off the top of my head. Because he's been in Formula One since 2001. So, his career is as long as my life has been.
I was like 4.
I was literally born the year that he was a rookie in Formula One.
Yes, sir. We are calling you old.
He is! I'm sorry. Like, he is an old man. For Formula One, anyway. I'm not saying if you're 42-year-old. I'm just saying that a 42-year-old in Formula One is old. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I am, in fact, saying that if you are 40 years old, you are old.
Okay. But yeah, so he's been in Formula One for 22 years. 23, actually, if you... Yeah, it's actually been 23 years.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So he has the longest F1 career ever, and he is also Spain's only world champion. He has won 2 championships, and he is one of their 2 F1 race winners. The other one, like I said, being Carlos Sainz. But yeah, he is, I think, the oldest F1 driver ever, I feel like. That's probably not true. There's probably someone from, like, the 50s that was older than him. But in modern Formula One.
Got it.
What?
I just re-looked at him and I was like, who was this person?
No, this wasn't Piano.
That wasn't Piano?
No!
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what you called him, but it wasn't Piano.
I thought he was Piano.
No, he wasn't. But Alonso races under the number 14. I'll tell you when Piano comes up, don't worry.
Yay, Piano. I have an awful memory, if anyone can't tell.
Williams Racing, one of my favorite teams. The British team has been in Formula One since 1978. So they're pretty old team. They have a total of 9 world championships. Their team principal is James Vowles, and their drivers are Alex Albon and Logan Sargent.
No, not Logan.
What?
Are you gonna go on a nice little rant about Logan?
Maybe.
And how much you love him?
You don't know me. I might.
I do. I know you very well.
You don't know my life story.
Yes, I do.
Anyways, Alex Albon is a 27-year-old Thai British driver. He races under the Thai flag, though. But he's been with Williams since 2022. He's been in Formula One since 2019, and he was a part of the Red Bull family, and he was promoted to Red Bull from AlphaTauri mid-season in 2019, but he was ultimately let go at the end of the 2020 season when they signed Sergio Perez.
Wow.
He stayed on as a reserve driver for 2021, and then when George Russell left Williams at the end of 2021, he recommended that they sign Albon, and they did.
Good.
So Alex, George, and Lando are all friends. Like, they've known each other for years and years and years, and they all were rookies in the same year, in 2019. But yeah. He races under the number 23. And honestly, I think he's one of the best drivers on the grid. He just doesn't have the car to show it.
That's unfortunate.
It is, but the car is getting better. Williams is getting better. Logan Sargent, he is a 23-year-old American driver, and he made his F1 debut last season with Williams. He is the first American F1 point scorer since Michael Andretti in 1993, and he has a highest qualifying position of P6 that was in Las Vegas. Albon qualified P5 in Vegas in the Williams. Unfortunately, both of them were dropped out of the points at that race. So it was sad. But Logan races under the number 2. And I love him with my whole heart.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. I don't really know what else to say.
So wait, why were there points? Las Vegas points, things you just said.
Oh, why did they get dropped out of the points?
Yes, that.
So it was because their race pace was low-key atrocious. Low-key.
If I was driving.
And other cars just had a better handle on it. And also, for whatever reason, Williams just kind of left both of their drivers out to, hung them out to dry. And on old tires, where all of their opponents had fresh tires. So, it was not ideal. Not an ideal situation, but qualifying was one of the highest highs of the season. Except for in Texas, where it was the first double points finish of the season. What?
Sorry. I love Texas.
I know you do. Moving on.
Yep.
This one's a mouthful. Visa Cash App RB Formula 1 team. Commonly known as VCARB. Or RB. Those are your options.
We'll go with VCARB.
VCARB, that's, yeah. So they are Red... Yeah, oh, it does. They are Red Bull's Italian sister team that went through a rebrand last year. So they used to be AlphaTauri, and before that they were Toro Rosso. They are typically a proving ground for the Red Bull juniors, and their team principal is... I'm going to butcher his name because, again, I think he's French, and I don't speak French. Their team principal is Laurent Mekies?
Close enough.
Cool. And their drivers are Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo.
I don't have a favorite.
Sorry?
I said I don't have a favorite.
No, not at all. I think I turned your volume up too much.
That's so funny because I'm literally just laying in my chair right now.
Well, because I think you were too quiet earlier, so I had to turn your volume up. One of my friends is complaining to me about his brother now. This is a good time. But yeah, so moving on. Yuki Tsunoda. He is a 23-year-old Japanese driver, and he has been with VCARB since 2021, which was his rookie season. And this was before their rebrand, so he joined when they were AlphaTauri. And in 2023, in Abu Dhabi, he led a race for the very first time for multiple laps, and he also secured the team's best finish in the Brazil sprint race, which was P6.
Yeah.
And he races under the number 22.
Yeah, he does.
We love Yuki in this house.
We do love Yuki in this house.
Oh, I misspelled year in Daniel's thing.
So, hey, I didn't notice.
Oh, no! Ah! I'm fixing it.
Yeah. He's 34, yeah.
He's 34, yeah! Anyways, you guys didn't see anything. Daniel Ricciardo is a 34-year-old Australian driver, and he's been with VCARB since halfway through the 2023 season when they were still AlphaTauri. And I will explain all of this in a second. But he has been in Formula 1 since 2011, and he is the only McLaren race winner in a decade. So, what happened? Ricardo started out at Toro Rosso when he was a rookie. I don't know how long he was there for. I think it was until like 2015, 2016. One of those 2 years. And then he went to Red Bull. And then when he was teammates with Max in 2019, at the end of 2018, he signed with Renault. So 2019, he was with Renault. And then in 2021, I think, 2021, I want to say, he signed with McLaren. And then in 2022, he had signed a contract extension with McLaren. Or no, he didn't sign a contract extension, sorry. He had more years in his contract with McLaren, but they signed Oscar Piastri and bought him out of the rest of his contract. And so then he became a Red Bull reserve driver for 2023. And then halfway through 2023, Nick DeVries, who was Yuki's original teammate for the 2023 season, was not doing well, and Red Bull is cutthroat, and they only accept the best from their drivers, which then means that since Nick DeVries was not performing, he got axed, and Daniel Ricciardo was brought in to replace him. So, that's why you see a 34-year-old in the junior team. But what it's kind of funny, and Daniel Ricciardo fans, don't take this the wrong way, I do like him. But he ran away from Red Bull because he didn't want to have to drive against Max Verstappen, which, fair, I understand. But also because he didn't want to be the second driver. But then he came back to Red Bull as a third driver. So the math ain't quite mathin' here.
Not really, no.
But I do love him. He's funny. I think he's a good driver.
You do, and I can approve this message.
Yeah, I do think he's a good driver. I do want to say I do think he's also past his prime. I don't think he's prime Ricardo anymore, but I do still think he is a good driver, and he shows his moments of brilliance fairly often. But yeah, I don't see him getting promoted to Red Bull this season or next season. Just a heads up. He races under the number 3. And moving on.
They choose the numbers?
So they get to choose numbers. I don't remember what year it started in, but yeah, they got to start choosing numbers, and in order for you to be able to choose a number that a driver had before you, it has to not be a retired number, although I think the only retired one is Jules Bianchi's number, because he passed away not during a race, but because of a Formula 1 race, and I think he was number 14. I don't know that for a fact, though, so don't come at me. But his number was retired. But then, if you want the number of a driver that has retired, you have to wait for a year before you can change your number to that.
Okay.
Yep. So, like Sebastian Vettel, he retired in 2022. So now drivers that are coming in can choose his old race number.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Piano.
Piano!
For those of you that didn't watch the YouTube video where Vey guessed F1 drivers' names, Vey called Valtteri Bottas Piano.
There's no way I was going to actually get his name.
I know. That was his first instinct, though. Was Piano. But yeah, so
people, that would be sad.
Sorry?
If I ever met him, that would be really sad, because I would just look at him and be like, oh my god, Piano.
Yeah.
And only you would understand.
But yeah, so he is on Stake F1 team Kick Sauber. People mostly just call it.
React to me screaming just now.
Sorry?
Because you didn't react to me like yelling as I fell out of my chair.
I did not hear it.
You just kept talking.
I don't think your mic picked it up.
That's so funny.
I didn't hear it.
It's okay. I back up. I'm not on the floor anymore.
Oh, good. But yeah, so most people just call them Sauber. They are an Italian team. They rebranded from Alfa Romeo last season. Oh, also, sorry, with this team, I think they may have to change their name because Stake, I don't think, had the right licensing for Sweden or something like that. And or there was like something that was an issue with it where like they didn't have the proper licensing or something like that. And I think they may have to take Stake out of their name.
Oof.
But we'll see. But the Italian team, they have their team principal is Alessandro Aluni Bravi. Probably the most American way I could have ever said that. And their drivers are Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu. So, Valtteri Bottas, he is a 34-year-old Finnish driver, and he has been with Sauber since 2022. Prior to that, he was with Mercedes, and prior to that, he was with Williams. He's been in Formula One since 2013, and he has a total of 10 race wins that came during his time with Mercedes, where he was teammates with Lewis Hamilton. He is also an honorary Australian. The Australians adopted him. Because he has a mullet, and he just looks very bogan. Which is basically Australian for a hick. Not a hick. That's not the right word there, and I know it. But like country.
Yeah.
Yeah, he races under the number 77. Oh, and I wanted to, so his reasoning for choosing 77 as his race number is actually like kind of adorable. He explained it because he was thinking for his merch, since his last name is Bottas and it has 2 T's, you put the 77 instead of T's.
Aww.
I loved his explanation. I was like, I love it. Like, that is so... It's so good. Yeah. I don't know. I like him a lot. He's very chill. He's one of my favorites.
That's good.
Zhou Guanyu, his teammate, is a 24-year-old Chinese driver, and he has been with Sauber since his rookie season in 2022 when they were still Alfa Romeo. He is the first Chinese F1 driver ever, and was the, I believe, 65th driver to score points on their F1 debut. I think. It might be less. It's in the 60s, that's all I know. And he drives under the number 24. He also has a cat that does not, like, I don't know how to pronounce her name in Chinese, but her name roughly translates to sweet corn.
Aww. Send me her name.
I'll send you a screenshot of it. But she is the cutest little cat. I love her to death.
Aww.
What a precious little bee.
Right? All in post-production, I'll put a picture of his cat somewhere on screen for you guys to see, in case you haven't seen her yet. But she is so cute. But yeah, the other day I went on Instagram, and I think I tweeted about this, but I went on Instagram because I saw that she had her own Instagram page now, and I was on Twitter, and I was like, oh, I'll just go follow her real quick, and then I'll be done. I went on to Instagram, like, 3.5-ish hours later. I close Instagram and I go back to Twitter and I see the tweet that I originally saw about her having an Instagram page, and I realized I didn't follow her on Instagram. I spent like 3 hours just doom scrolling.
Yeah, do be like that.
It was so bad. I was like, oh, you're kidding me. Like, it's... Oh. Anyways, moving on. MoneyGram Haas F1 team. They are the only American team on the grid, and they've had a poor showing in their time in F1, unfortunately. They only scored a single pole position and no podiums in their entire run as a team. This is largely due to the fact that Gene Haas, the owner of the team, he refuses to invest money into it, basically.
Oh.
But he still expects results. It's a whole thing. They're a mess. But their team principal is, I'm going to hopefully not butcher it this time, Ayao Komatsu. I know his last name. First name is iffy. And their drivers are Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg. Kevin Magnussen is a 31-year-old Danish driver, and he has been with Haas since 2017, but he didn't drive in Formula 1 in 2021 for anyone. So, but he's been in F1 since 2014, bar that 2021 season, like I said. He is the second Danish driver to score points ever, and the first to get a podium. The first Danish driver to score points, by the way, was his dad.
Oh.
Which I think is fun. That's a little fun fact. And he scored his first and only podium in his very first race. And he also is the one that got Haas their only pole position. So that's cool. And he races under the number 20. Moving on to his teammate, Nico Hulkenberg, or Ulkenberg, depending on who you are. If you're Daniel Ricciardo, that's how you say it. He is a 36-year-old German driver, and he has been with Haas since 2023. He joined Formula 1 in 2010, but he wasn't racing from 2020 to 2022, except as a reserve driver for the Silverstone team, so Racing Point, and then it became Aston Martin, so he was a reserve driver for them for those 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He has yet to score a podium in his career, but he is a strong midfield driver. So even though he's not gotten a podium at all, he scores points pretty regularly, which is pretty impressive considering some of the cars that he's had to deal with. And he races under the number 27. And then
Texted how to say the name of the cat.
Cool.
I watch too many Asian dramas.
Points and finishing positions, a brief explanation. So, points and finishing positions. Drivers are awarded points based on where they finish, obviously, but they only get points if they finish in the top 10, and the points are as follows. First place, you get 25 points. Second, you get 18. Third, you get 15. Fourth, you get 12. Fifth, you get 10 points. Sixth, you get 8 points. 7, you get 6. 8th, you get 4 points. 9th, you get 2 points. And 10th, you get 1 point. And there's also 1 point awarded for fastest lap completed during the race, but you only get that point if you finished in the top 10. So I could get the fastest lap of a race, but if I'm P14, I don't get that point.
Wow.
Yeah. It is also possible to not classify as finishing the race in the final standings. So this will be written as either a DNF, which is a did not finish. That's normally because of some mechanical failure or a crash of some kind. A DNS is a did not start, which is a little bit rarer. We saw Yuki Tsunoda last year. He did not start in Monza because of an engine failure. And then we also saw Charles Leclerc last year did not start due to some kind of car trouble thing. He was not able to complete the formation lap. And then there's also a DSQ, which means that that driver has been disqualified. Last year, Charles Leclerc got all 3 of those. He didn't finish a race, he didn't start a race, and he also got disqualified from a race.
So how do you get disqualified from a race?
A lot of the time it's due to really unsportsmanlike behavior. So that could be forcing another driver off track, purposely causing collisions, all that good stuff. And then also if your car is found to be outside of regulations, then you can also get disqualified, which is what happened to Leclerc.
Okay, I remember you talking to me about that.
Yeah, because that was the weekend that Logan got his first F1 points. I was very excited.
We were.
And then team sport, yes, it is, but also no, it's not. F1 is a team sport in that you have teams that fight each other in a Constructors' Championship, and this championship adds the points from both drivers together and then ranks the teams accordingly. I meant to change the photos on this slide, but I didn't. Whoops. F1 is also an individual sport in the sense that every driver is ultimately out for themselves at the end of the day. So there's the Drivers' Championship that ranks drivers according to their cumulative points throughout the season, and the driver with the most points wins the World Drivers' Championship. Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, like I said before, are tied for the most World Drivers' Championships. But Ferrari has the most overall. I don't know how many they have, but it's more than any of the other teams. So, what do the cars look like? And this is the last thing, I believe. So this is just going through this year's cars. That way you have an idea of what they look like when we're in Spain.
Fair.
So Oracle Red Bull Racing, their 2024 contender is the RB20, which this is what it looks like. This was it during testing.
It reminds me of something that you might see in like Star Wars, and then the little orange part that's above the driver's head is like R2-D2.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Yeah. So that's the diffuser. And this is also kind of like the roll cage. So when a driver rolls, this protects their head. And then this is the halo that I was talking about earlier that protects them. And then they have their little mirrors right here.
Those are very little.
They are. And then this, so on the rear wing, I don't think I put a slide in here about it, but on the rear wing there is something called DRS, which means drag reduction system. And it's a little flap that is on the rear wing that can flip down to give drivers an extra burst of speed. And they can only use this in certain areas of the track, and they can only use it when they're within 1 second of the driver ahead at the time that they cross the DRS detection zone. So even if they're ahead of the driver that they were behind at the DRS detection zone, they can still use it as long as they were within a second behind. So, yeah.
A lot of math, I think.
Yes. But yeah. And then Mercedes AMG Petronas F1 team, their 2024 contender is called the W15. Their team is also called the Silver Arrows, which is why they have all the silver on here and everything. And then another thing that I forgot to mention is these little thingies on the top of the car are useful for figuring out which car belongs to which driver. So one will be black, the other will be yellow. So in this case, Lewis Hamilton drives the one that has the yellow thingy up top, and George Russell would be the one that has the black one. Or a different color of some kind. But yeah.
Customizable R2-D2s, got it.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Scuderia Ferrari, their 2024 contender is the SF24. I actually think it's a really nice looking car. I'm not gonna lie. Their wheels look really cool. It's like red with a yellow stripe on it. I think it looks very neat.
So essentially orange.
Okay. The McLaren Formula One team, their 2024 contender is the MCL38. Their liveries changed from last year. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, I looked at it and I said okay because of the photo that I sent you the other day.
What photo did you send me the other day?
Not the other day. It was a while ago, actually. Of them having a car.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember that now.
Yeah.
That's right. You have seen this one before.
I have seen this one before.
But yeah. So it's the MCL38. And I don't know if they have it this year too, but last year they had these little digital sponsor thingies right by where the driver sits.
Okay.
And they would, like, during a race, the sponsor on it would change because it was like a digital screen. It was pretty cool.
I like the little Google Chrome.
Yeah. Looks
Those
like
tires.
It looks like
so
eyes.
Smooth. It does.
Yeah, so the soft, medium, and hard tires, they're called slicks. because it is a slick surface.
Oh,
And when they're
nice.
brand new, they're like super shiny too.
Ooh,
Yeah,
crow brain.
exactly. Aston Martin Aramco F1 team, their 2024 contender is the AMR 24. That's all I really got to say about that. Although it's a really nice color.
That is a nice color.
I love the Aston Martin green. And it's so shiny too. It looks so nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then BWT Alpine F1 team, their 2024 contender is called the A524. I think they actually added more paint than what's on here, because it was very disappointing when they revealed their car and it was primarily just carbon fiber, like exposed carbon fiber. But it's because teams don't want to paint their cars too much because it makes their cars heavier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But Alpine is running a pink car, so all the little blue bits are actually going to be pink for the first 2 races, I believe, in the 2024 season.
My brain just went breast cancer awareness.
Pretty much.
Good for them.
I don't know if I don't think that's actually what it is.
I
but yes.
I don't think that is either, but I must say that's what it is. So good for them.
Yep. Williams Racing, their 2024 contender is the FW46. They have a little Duracell battery as their diffuser. I love it. I love the Williams car, I'm not gonna lie. I think it's just a very nice shade of blue.
Yeah.
It helps that I like the drivers in it, so
That is also true.
yeah. And then Visa Cash App RB Formula 1 team, their 2024 contender is the V-Carb 01.
Oh, okay.
So it looks very reminiscent of the old Toro Rosso cars. Like, they kind of went more retro with their design. I kind of like it, if I'm being honest. I think I maybe just like it because it's a fully painted car. But I like it. And then you have Stake F1 team Kick Sauber. Their 2024 contender is the C44. They have that lime green. I think the car looks very nice. And the race suits, I know in my last podcast episode I said they look like highlighters, which still holds true, but it looks better. It's growing on me.
It looks like a Sharpie.
Yeah. But their race suits are definitely growing on me. Because I always liked the car. It was the race suits and the team kit that I was just like, I don't know about that. But
yeah,
I like it now.
I feel like I can go into a Walmart and purchase this. I know I can't, but like
that's true. That's a good point.
That's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, like you can definitely get like a bike that has this exact same color scheme.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like the same amount of like couture or whatever you want to say.
Oh, definitely not. Are you kidding me? They're sponsored by Kick.
That is
like
You're right.
Anyways.
Okay. Anyways, yep.
MoneyGram Haas F1 team, their 2024 contender is called the VF24. It honestly looks fairly similar to last year's car, just more exposed carbon fiber. But yeah. I like the color combo for Haas, though. Yeah. I think it's very nice.
Oh, but I mean, it's kind of hard to mess up red, black, and white.
It's true.
If you can mess that up, I'm going to be very surprised.
I'm impressed if you can mess it up.
Yeah. I'd be like, you know what?
I will give you that one.
Yeah. No, but I like it. Like, as hard as it is to mess up, it's a good color combo. They chose well.
Mhm. They did. It's a little basic, but
Yeah. Sometimes basic is good.
sometimes, yeah, sometimes that's what
Also, I
what
didn't
is
realize before, but their little wheel rims right here, I didn't notice that white ring before. I like that. It's a fun little detail.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
They're like, we're gonna go for the details in this one.
Yeah. I like it.
I like how the front, I'm pointing at it as if you can see what I'm pointing at. The front wing thingy that is, keep going to the side. It's,
This.
yeah, like that thing. I love how it's kind of blending in with the truck.
Oh, yeah. So these are the end plates, is what they're called. Front wing end plates.
Well, at least I knew it was a wing.
It's
In
true.
the front.
It's true. That's good. Good job.
I learned something.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to realize what it was, though, because I was like, is that part of the
Is that
truck?
just- yeah, it's like, is that just the track? Like, what is going on?
It's like, oh, it's the car.
Yeah.
Camouflage.
Pretty much. But yeah. I think that's all the cars. Yes, it is. Finn.
Woo. Finny.
Finn. That was it. That was my presentation on an introduction to Formula One.
Nice. I learned some stuff. Do I remember the drivers' names? Probably not.
That's
but I
okay.
learned
That means we can
stuff.
redo the video this year, too.
I won't
probably
even
do it-
remember who Piano is, so it's fine.
We'll probably do it during summer break for F1. That's my
Okay,
guess.
yeah.
Halfway through the season.
Mm. Would that be before or after?
After. It'll be after Spain.
Okay.
Or, if we're doing an in-person episode in Spain, we can do it then.
Fair.
And I'll just, like, we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just cover your face with something, and I'll give you my iPad with driver photos on them or something like that and put it up on screen.
I can take a paper bag and just...
Just cut circles in it.
Yep. Just a nice paper bag just over my head.
No, but it'd be so funny. I want to find something, like, funny that we can cover your face with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I am going to be recording the experience for a future YouTube video for Sticks, so...
Yeah.
Not for
I
me.
did ask Faye if they would do that for me.
And I do have a nice camera, so...
Yeah. Well, it's because I wanted to do it last year, but I felt really awkward because I went with my family. And I was just
that's
like,
true.
I don't know about that one.
It's... Yeah, I don't really know if they'd want that.
And then I would have fully vlogged Texas for, like, an actual YouTube video. But again, I was with a family friend.
Yeah.
She probably wouldn't have cared, but I cared.
Yeah.
So I just
mean,
did
it's
the short
definitely something
TikTok
you have to
ones.
ask first.
Yeah, I did the short TikTok videos instead. Which worked out, I thought. I liked them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They look cute.
Thanks.
Of course. Happy to learn new things.
Alrighty. Well, that was all I had. I'm so not used to being on camera for this stuff. I was like, I don't know. It's like, it's just a very weird feeling.
Yeah, I understand that.
Also, let it be known, guys, I cleaned my background for you. It may not look like it because I have a shoe sitting in front of my beanbag and a volleyball on top of the beanbag, but I cleaned it. It's clean. Those are
clean,
supposed
yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
Because I don't have
For the
anywhere else to put them. It's
Get a
fine.
shoe rack.
Oh, you can also see one of my shiny green cowboy hats. It's fine. This is fine.
Everything's fine.
But on the other hand, you can see my little Formula E Lego car that I finally made room for at the front of my dresser, so you can see it on camera. I need to put Pascal Verlaine's number on there because I love him. And he drives for them this year. I think he drove for them last year too. I don't know. Anyways, I am stalling.
Yes, you are.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I love and appreciate you all so much. If you want to support me on any other like platforms, I will put all the links for that down below. So that would be Instagram, Twitch, which I'll try to stream a little bit more often. I know it's been a while, but Instagram, Twitch. I'll put my Discord link in there. That way you can come join my server and we'll be able to chat. And then also Twitter is the other one. And then on YouTube, I will put the link for Spotify, and on Spotify, I will put the link for YouTube. So if you want to go check me out on any of those platforms, be sure to go do that. Faye, can they find you anywhere, or do you not want me to put anything?
You can find me on YouTube, occasionally on Twitter when I feel like existing, and then occasionally on TikTok when I feel like mass spamming things.
Fair.
For
Oh,
now.
I
will
also have
eventually
TikTok. I forgot to say that. TikTok
I will eventually get back into things. It's just
life.
Life is happening. Life is lifing right now, and it's lifing a little too hard for me to be able to do anything.
It's lifing a little too close to the sun.
I am lifing a little too close to the sun. I am Icarus right now, and honestly, I am trying not to fall from the sky.
On that note, thank you guys so much for listening and watching and enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Be sure to follow the podcast on Spotify. And I will see you all next time. Bye!
Bye!